We have so much yarn to sort through today. I've been steadily working through my stash since the start of the year. How is there still so much? It's the yarn fairies, it's got to be. There is no other possible explanation. Hello all of you lovely people, how are we doing today? Depending on your response, my answer is either I'm glad or I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know how long it'll take me to get this filmed and edited, so it could be anywhere between 1 and 3 weeks since I saw you guys last. Though to be honest, it feels like a lot longer for me because for my previous 2 videos, I had to get my sister to upload and schedule them for me because I've been sick. I had the flu and I was starting to recover from that when, bam, I got knocked on my ass by a pretty brutal infection. I sort of just collapsed in bed, wrapped myself up in a blanket cocoon, and then emerged 4 weeks later, not as a beautiful butterfly, but as some sort of deranged yarn goblin suffering from severe crochet withdrawal. And while I'd love to just pick up my hook and scratch that crochet itch, unfortunately, I'm still dealing with a few lingering symptoms, which are making that a little bit difficult to do. I tried crocheting yesterday and my PB for consecutive number of stitches crocheted was 15. Yeah, it's not very efficient. So until I get my crojo back, I've got to find another way to satisfy my inner yarn goblin, and today that way is stash busting. I'll be rummaging through my yarn stash, well at least a large portion of it, brainstorming ideas for projects based on the yarn that I have, then dividing the yarn I want to use in those projects into their own separate project bags. I feel like I said project a lot in that sentence. And I absolutely want all of your input, so if you are struck by inspiration at any point, sound off in the comments and let me know your idea or ideas. Alrighty, let's go gather some yarn. Do you think the yarn fairies would bring it in for me if I asked nicely? Oh, yarn fairies, where art thou? This is my collection so far, though in my defense, not all of this is actually yarn. There is a couple of bags of amigurumi, and down there, can you see that red thing? That's actually full of fabric scraps. And this here, this is my scrap bag, so that you don't count. But I think there is plenty of yarn here to make at least several projects. I had to do it all myself. Yarn fairies, bloody useless. So what I'm mainly thinking of making with my yarn stash is clothing. I've been thoroughly enjoying crocheting my own clothes recently. If you've been here for a little while, you might have picked up on the fact, considering I've been making more and more clothing videos. And also, I already have specific yarn I use for amigurumi, so it's not like I'm going to be eating into my amigurumi yarn stash by doing this, and I apologise for my voice. It's just going to be like that for a while. To be honest, I don't even know where to start here. I've got quite a lot of yarn and not many ideas at this point. We'll start with an easy one, and that will be... This is leftover yarn from I made the granny hexagon cardigan, the rainbow and black one. If you saw that video, you will know what happened at the end there with this traitor. But I asked for suggestions in that video of what I could crochet with. That's something to go with that jacket. And a couple of you said shorts, and I really liked that idea. So I'm thinking that will be project number 1, a pair of shorts that will match my jacket. Excellent. I'm 30 seconds in, and I already have one idea. Technically, you guys had the idea, but this is a collaborative effort. We're working together. That's already in a project bag, which is good. Hi-ya! I just hit my poor whale. Sorry, Mr. Whale. As for project number 2, or potential project number 2, I may have accidentally stumbled upon an idea. I have this black bag, and in this black bag is some red yarn and some blue yarn. And that's all that's in here, and I think these actually go quite nicely together. What I'm thinking of doing with these colours is making a bomber jacket. I've always loved bomber jackets, and I think red and blue could be a good combination for that. So project 2 is sorted. I'm also using this as an opportunity to try out different styles of clothing, because my relationship with clothing has always been pretty meh. The reason for that is, well, A, I just never really had any interest at all in fashion, but B, I was actually a basketball player. All my sisters and myself, we were all basketball players from the age of 6 up until I got injured and started having health issues, but I continued with coaching, and I was employed by the basketball stadiums after that. So up until about my mid-20s, I was just involved in basketball. And if any of you have ever been really heavily involved in a sport, there isn't really much opportunity for experimentation with fashion. You basically wear your basketball uniform or your athletic wear. So for 20 years, I wore either my school uniform, my basketball uniform, or athletic wear. I didn't really have any other clothes. And now that I'm older, I still don't have that many clothes. I probably wear the same 6 jumpers over and over again. So I just really don't have that much experience styling clothes. I was going to say dressing myself, but that does not sound right. I do know how to dress myself, but when it comes to styling, not so much. And I want to change that a little bit. What I actually started doing was looking up these, the aesthetics on Pinterest and Tumblr and places like that. You've got your dark academia and your cottagecore and your steampunk. And the thing I realized looking at all those, aesthetic kind of posts was I don't want to pigeonhole myself. I'm drawn to some of those aesthetics more than others, but I look at these other styles that are so disparate. There's so much variety out there, and I like to just pick and choose. And I figure, why box myself in? Why can't I make some sort of pirate inspired but with steampunk elements, massive overcoat, but on another day make a cute hobbit kind of waistcoat, and then on another day make a fairy core inspired toadstool dress. I just don't see why I should stick to the one aesthetic. It seems like it would get boring after a while. So the point of that ramble was I just want to try lots of different things, as many different things as I can. And I'm going to be using the yarn that I already have in my stash as training wheels. So the colors might not be great. The fiber type might not be all that suitable, but I would rather practice on this yarn than go out and, waste money on decent quality yarn when I'm not, 100% certain what I'm doing. I'm going to do a bit of experimentation with these guys. Speaking of which, let's get back to deciding what project number 3 is going to be. And I'm eyeing off this yarn here. I've grouped this yarn together because it's all the same type. It's this Spot Saver one from Spotlight, and I have not much of this left. You might recognize the white from my toadstool dress. That's what I used to make the skirt part. So I've got some of that, and I actually have an additional full skein of white, which I found. I have green, and I also have yellow. The first thing that came to my mind when I grabbed this yarn out was to make another granny hexagon cardigan, but make it predominantly white because I have more of that, with single stripes of green, yellow, and red. They're not colours I usually pair together, but they don't look that bad. And as I mentioned before, this is my experimentation phase. Here's my thoughts. I can either do a section of white, then a stripe of colour, more white, stripe of colour, more white, and then the third stripe of colour. Or I can crochet out all the way in white until the final 3 rounds, and then I will do a stripe of green, yellow, and then followed by red. Whew, all right, so I just spent the last 15 minutes coughing, so hopefully that cleared my throat a little bit. It's so handy that the first 3 projects have already been in their own little project bags. I don't think I can say the same for my next few projects, which are going to be these. This, what is it called? Karen Baby Cakes. My sister, I think it was this yarn, my sister found these at a market and she just grabbed them for me. Some of them I have 2 skeins of, or 2 cakes of, whereas others I only have 1 or partial skeins. I've never worked with this yarn before, so I don't know how far 1 cake will go, but with the ones that I have pairs of, I would like to do, again, some sort of granny hexagon or granny square type clothing, just because from my minimal experience so far, they tend to work up fairly quickly. Because I have 3 pairs, I'm aiming to do 3 different designs, perhaps a cardigan, but I will alter the design from the original granny hexagon cardigan that I did. I'd like to possibly make a shirt, and then for the final pair, perhaps a jumper. What's good about these skeins too is that in my regular yarn stash, I have colours that are a very good match to each of these skeins, or at least a couple of the colours are. So if 1 cake is not quite enough, I will have some additional yarn, even though it's not the same brand. I do have some additional yarn which I can then incorporate into any design I make. As for the single skeins, that's a little bit trickier for me. I could perhaps crochet like a solid colour top, either just like a basic like raglan sleeve, and then I could use these skeins to crochet like a bottom section. What I'm picturing in my head is the bottom half of the rainbow jacket I did, paired with like the top half of the mushroom or the toadstool dress I did. I reckon that would look pretty cool. Not in those same colours. I'd obviously do different colours, but I think that could go together well. I think that's going to keep me going for a while, at least 3 granny square or granny hexagon projects with at least an additional 1, possibly 2 tops. The final bag that we have to go through is actually the largest. I've got this stuff here. I might put that behind me actually. Whew. The first thing I want to use up from this bag is this yarn. I've had this sitting, that's going to fall, isn't it? Don't you dare, don't. I've had this yarn sitting in a drawer for literal years, but I've never had anything to do with it because I didn't really want to crochet amigurumi with it. And at that point, a couple of years ago, even 9 or so months ago, maybe a little bit more, I wasn't crocheting clothes. But now that I am, honestly, I'm just thinking another granny hexagon project. Also, thought I could pair it possibly with this, whether I include it by adding stripes into the granny hexagon, or I use it to create cuffs or possibly a hood or something. I don't know, but I do think, if you can see it, I do think the colours go together quite well. So I would like to incorporate this blue yarn into this somehow. So that is another project. I've got to write all these down. I'm going to have so many projects on the go. I already have enough. I don't need more, but I want more. What's next? I didn't even realise I had this yarn. It was buried under all the other yarn. And yet somehow I have 5 skeins of it. I kind of like the colours. They're giving me like fairy forest sort of vibes. And because I have 5 skeins, I think I can make a slightly bigger project. And for this, I was thinking a jacket. I'm not going to just use the variegated yarn. I want to pair it with solid colours. And in here, I have this purple, which while it isn't an exact match to the purple that is in this yarn, I still think they go well together. But also, I think this blue, which I also have, matches fairly well too. Again, they're not exact, but I'm sticking with the yarn that I've got. That's another project sorted. Again, input, feedback, very welcome. Let me know what you think or what you would make yourself with these colours. I'm just going to drop all this on the floor for now. And the yarn remaining in this bag is this brown. Now, when I first saw this, well, not when I first saw this, when I rediscovered this in my drawer, what sprang to mind straight away was overalls. And I was scrolling through Pinterest a couple of weeks ago, as you do, and I actually came across a picture of a pair of granny square overalls. And I thought they looked pretty cool. So I may attempt to make some granny square overalls with this yarn. Sometimes I find the variegated yarns can look a little strange when you crochet large projects with them. So I will just have some solid colour yarn on standby just in case I don't like how the granny squares are turning out with just this yarn. And I think it gives me a few more design options too if I incorporate solid colour yarns with these. There's a lot more I can do with that. Like pockets, for example. Pockets are always good. That is what I would like to make with these yarns, but again, I'm open to suggestions. And in the time between now and when I actually get around to crocheting all these projects, I may have come up with a different idea, might have changed my mind, but at this stage, I'm thinking overalls. So you can go in your own separate project bag when I get the bags out. So that's going to be all for this video. It's probably shaping up to be a bit of a short one, but that's all I have energy for at the moment. Depending on how things go over the next couple of weeks, I may do more videos similar to this where we're doing yarn stuff, we're doing crochet adjacent stuff, but there may not be much crochet. The infection kind of hit me pretty hard. It affected pretty much everything. It affected my hearing, my balance, my vision, affected my speech. So I'm still working on getting over that. But when I do, we'll be back into the crochet. I, for one, cannot wait. It's going to take me like 3 years to get through all of these projects, but I'm looking forward to it. As I've said multiple times, please leave your ideas, suggestions, thoughts down in the comments. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you all next week with another video.